Have you ever noticed how the most unexpected things can be connected? Like, you think about it, a tiny little seed and a giant oak tree. Worlds apart, right? But one holds the potential for the other.
It's like that saying, as above, so below. These hidden links, these echoes of patterns across different scales, that's what makes exploring these ideas so fascinating.
Exactly. And that's what we're all about here on the Deep Dive, uncovering those hidden connections.
You bring us the sources, those dense texts, or maybe even just a thought-provoking question, and we dive deep.
We break it down, pull out the key insights, and make sure you walk away with a solid grasp of even the most complex concepts.
No need to get lost in the weeds. We're your guides to getting to the heart of the matter.
Precisely. And today we're taking a deep dive into a particularly intriguing text you shared with us. It's called Arivai, but we're focusing specifically on pages 97 to 106.
Ah, yes, those pages are a real gem. They delve into some pretty fundamental questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and the very beginning of the cosmos.
No small feat. So, in this deep dive, we're setting out to unpack the core ideas within these specific pages.
We'll be looking at how the text describes the genesis of the universe, the characteristics of divine awareness, and the relationship between the ultimate source and the manifested world.
All pretty heady stuff, but we're going to break it down step by step and make sure you leave with a clear understanding of the key takeaways. And speaking of beginnings, why don't we start with how these pages, a QI, describe the birth of the cosmic logos?
Absolutely. Right off the bat, it's clear that Ive signifies a monumental transition.
A transition from what to what, though? I mean, what exactly is being born here?
It's the moment when pure, unmanifested potential becomes actual, established reality. This is what's referred to as the birth of the cosmic logos.
Okay, I'm starting to see the picture. But this doesn't just come out of nowhere, right? It's part of a larger sequence.
Right. The text tells us that the first three arcana deal with the Ashurmatea, that's the whole, unified divine self-consciousness, but in a state of pure potential.
Okay, so pure potential, not yet manifested. Then AV is like the let there be light moment.
You could say that. It's where that potential energy explodes outward into form.
But what triggers that shift? What makes potential become actual in AV?
The text points to the concept of differentiation. It's the initial separation, the very first split within that unified divine self-consciousness, leading to what it calls a cosmic aggregate of separate realities.
So like a single cell dividing and multiplying to create a complex organism.
Exactly. It's the seed cracking open, the bud bursting forth. That initial division is key.
Fascinating. And this cosmic splitting, it's driven by divine consciousness itself, isn't it? There's a specific critical moment highlighted in the text where this unified consciousness differentiates.
And as a result, you have the formation of individual realities, these monads, which at first can't directly communicate with each other.
Almost a sense of primordial loneliness, like a built-in cosmic isolation. Does the text hint at why this initial separation is necessary? What's the purpose of this fragmentation?
It's a good question. And the text seems to suggest that this differentiation is actually a prerequisite for manifestation.
So, in a way, separation is necessary for individual experience to even exist.
Think of it this way. Each archetype that exists as a potential within the unified whole can only become a real individual consciousness through this separation.
So, like, each archetype gets its own chance to shine, to experience reality on its own terms.
Exactly. It asserts its own power, and that's how Amaran becomes a monad, a unique center of awareness.
I'm reminded of that idea of the Big Bang. Like, everything starts from a single point and then explodes outwards in all directions.
It's a good analogy, and the text provides this very concise formula to sum it all up. Moshu, Jasho Asetro, Chikojojo, Hurojo Stish. And that nicely sets us up to discuss the next big concept, the substantiality of manifestation.
Right. We've got this initial spark of creation, this differentiation. Now, what about the idea that the manifested world is actually, well, substantial? What's the connection?
The text argues that the mere fact that anything exists, that we have this manifested world, is direct proof of the substantiality of the divine essence itself, the first cause.
So the logic is, if the source wasn't real, how could something real come from it?
Precisely. The reality of the created world is a testament to the reality of its origin.
I like that. It's like a cosmic seal of authenticity. And the text goes even further, saying that the substantiality manifestation is the first and highest attribute of the divine. Why is this so fundamental?
It's fundamental because it underpins everything else. The text says that this substantiality expresses itself in the vitality of the manifested world.
I see. All the energy, all the movement, the sheer activity of the universe, it's all a reflection of the divine's own substantial nature.
Right, it's not just random chaos. This dynamism is seen as a direct outpouring from the source.
Okay, so it's not just a one-way street. The vitality of the manifested world actually affirms its substantiality, which in turn reinforces the substantiality of the first cause. It's like a feedback loop of existence.
Absolutely. And the text brings in this quote from Vedanta. This translates roughly to, the power of the divine spirit is hidden by its own qualities.
Interesting. So even when we perceive these qualities like vitality, we're only getting a glimpse of a much deeper power beneath the surface.
It's like the tip of the iceberg, right?
Exactly. And the text goes on to define vitality as self-manifestation, the self-expression of a factor's own essence. And this leads to self-sufficient existence. There's even a quote from Leibniz via Kuno Fischer, which means where there is self-expression, there is life or vitality. So the very act of expressing one's true nature, of acting in accordance with one's being, is inherently linked to being alive, being real.
Right. It's the outward flow of essence, the becoming of what is.
And this brings us to the primary substance, the divine essence. The text emphasizes that it affirms its being, is conscious of itself, and lives entirely within itself. It's independent of any specific manifestations and even the principle of manifestation itself.
So the divine doesn't need the world to be.
Right. Its existence isn't contingent on creation.
It's the other way around. And this independence defines its transcendental nature for us.
So it's outside, beyond the world, but the world is also its perfect likeness and reflection. That's a pretty mind-bending concept.
It is. But it helps to understand the next part, the cyclical nature of manifestation and dissolution.
Okay, go on.
The divine holds the world as potentiality, then, through its own will, brings it into reality, and eventually returns it to that state of potentiality.
It's like a cosmic breath, in and out. Manifestation and dissolution, endlessly cycling.
Precisely. And it's reminiscent of the Hindu concept of the days and nights of Brahma, these vast cosmic cycles of creation and rest.
We've covered a lot of ground already, from the initial spark of creation to the substantiality of manifestation, all stemming from the divine essence to this grand cyclical view of existence.
It's all interconnected.
Right. And speaking of interconnectedness, the next concept we want to explore is the law of universal accord, this idea of harmonic resonance. The text argues that this interconnectedness isn't just some random chaos. There are specific laws that govern it.
Exactly. It uses the analogy of impulse propagation and isochrones. Imagine dropping a pebble into a perfectly still pond. The ripples spread outwards in concentric circles.
Right, and those circles, those are essentially isochrones, lines of equal intensity, showing how an influence radiates and is shaped by its surroundings.
And these laws of harmonic combinations, as the text calls them, govern this transmission and spread of these waves emanating from a central point.
But harmony here doesn't just mean things getting along, right? There's a deeper meaning.
Absolutely. It implies a fundamental connection between the influencing force, the subject, and what's being influenced, the object, and also the cause behind that connection.
So a deeper kind of resonance, more than just a simple interaction.
Precisely. And the text explains that elements closer to the origin of an impulse experience a more intense, purer effect. Fewer intermediaries mean a more direct relationship between the active source and the passive recipient.
So like standing close to the stage at a concert, you get the full force of the music compared to someone way back in the bleachers.
Perfect analogy. But then the text throws in a bit of a curveball. It says that perfect, completely pure propagation is actually impossible.
Because everything in the universe is already interconnected in some way.
Exactly. It's like our pond, it's never truly still. There are always other ripples already present.
So even though perfect, pure influence is limited by this interconnectedness, proximity to the source still makes a difference. It maximizes the intensity and clarity.
Absolutely. And as you move further from that central point, along those isochrones, the original intensity and purity decrease and get mixed with influences from other sources. It's like those overlapping ripples in our pond.
So it's a constant interplay of influences, a kind of cosmic dance where every single vibration interacts with countless others.
A grand symphony, as you said before.
And this brings us to the concept of phenomena as aspects of noumena. What does that mean exactly?
The text explains that every single phenomenon, every observable event or appearance in the universe originates and is established because, at a fundamental level, in an a priori moment, it was merged with the dynamic noumen.
Hold on, let's define our terms here. Noumen isn't just any old substance. It's defined as substance in relation to its attributes or phenomena. So the noumen is like the underlying essence, the energy.
And the phenomenon is how that essence expresses itself, how it manifests in the specific context.
So the noumen is like the blueprint, and the phenomena are the buildings constructed from it.
Exactly. Each phenomenon is just a particular facet of the noumen that has been imprinted on the environment, making it observable.
I see. It's like the noumen is the source code, and the phenomena are the programs running on the screen.
A perfect way to visualize it.
Okay, our final stop on this deep dive into IV is the doctrine of Ea, which H.P. Blavatsky also refers to as Leia centers. Even the text acknowledges that this is a tricky concept to wrap our heads around.
Oh, definitely. It's one of those ideas that requires some real mental gymnastics.
So how does the text attempt to make it clearer for us?
It uses this really interesting analogy involving light and a series of semi-transparent concave mirrors. Imagine a beam of light passing through these mirrors.
Okay, I'm picturing it. What do the mirrors represent?
The mirrors represent different worlds or planes of existence, called a drak.
And the light beam.
That symbolizes the Atman, the individual's higher self.
Okay, so the light is passing through these different worlds. What about the individual images created by each mirror?
Those represent the Ea of those different worlds. Each mirror, each world, catches a reflection of that same light beam, creating a unique image.
So all these individual Ea, they're all reflections of the same source, the Atman.
Exactly. And the key principle here is analogy. Each Ea, just like the Atman and the divine in its totality, knows itself through its reflection.
So each Ea is a way for the Atman to see itself, to experience itself in a unique way.
Precisely. Therefore, the Atman, the higher self, becomes self-aware through its individual Ea, its manifestations across these different worlds. Each Ea provides a unique perspective, contributing to the Atman's overall self-knowledge.
Wow, that's a powerful image. So to bring it all together for you, our listener, this deep dive into pages 97 to 106 has covered some truly foundational concepts. We started with the birth of the cosmic logos, that crucial transition from pure potential to established reality, driven by the differentiation of divine consciousness.
And we explored the substantiality of manifestation, a direct consequence of the divine essence, expressed in the dynamism and vitality of the cosmos.
We then talked about the law of universal accord, the principle of harmonic resonance, and how it governs the interconnectedness of everything.
And let's not forget phenomena as aspects of noumena, where the observable world is seen as an expression of a deeper underlying essence.
Right. And finally, the doctrine of Ea, those Leia centers, acting as individual reflections of the Atman across different planes of existence.
Grasping these fundamental principles, as presented in these specific pages, can give you a much more profound understanding of reality. It's about seeing the interconnectedness, the underlying patterns that govern existence.
It's about connecting the dots without getting lost in the details. And this deep dive has hopefully provided you with some of those aha moments, those flashes of insight that make it all click.
And considering that high V marks this initial differentiation into individual consciousness, the birth of these monads, the concept of Ea as reflections of the Atman, it really begs the question, how can understanding these laws of harmonic combinations help us bridge those perceived separations?
If we are, at our core, reflections of the same source, how do these harmonic laws influence our interactions and our potential for experiencing unity? What does it mean for our understanding of self and other?
That's a great question, and one that deserves some serious reflection.
Definitely something to chew on. And as always, we encourage you to revisit these pages of the Lugius to dig even deeper into these profound concepts. This deep dive is really just the beginning of a much larger and very rewarding exploration. Until next time, happy diving.